that I talk about a lot is that what we appear to have imported in this country is not just a lot of people from different parts of the world, but an awful lot of sort of feuds from different parts of the world. I mean, we've seen, you know, fighting on the streets of Leicester between, you know, different groups of ethnic minorities from the Indian subcontinent. We've seen the same in Bradford. We've seen the same in Birmingham. You know, you see these kind of international feuds reaching far and away beyond what you might call the homelands of people who have come to decide to make Britain their home. But at the end of the day, what they haven't done is assimilated to British culture.
Yeah, I know. I mean, does a week go past when you don't have a mayor or a police commissioner saying diversity is our greatest strength?
Yeah.
It's the biggest myth that we have.
I know.
Diversity is not a strength.
Right.
We've seen that in Leicester. We've seen that on the streets of London just this past week. It's our greatest dilemma, actually.
Yeah.
And when you combine it with the failed policy of multiculturalism and mass immigration, diversity, as we're seeing, is actually one of our greatest weaknesses.
Absolutely right. And we've seen it most recently with these Palestinian demonstrations, haven't we? Because London has been literally taken over, because it wasn't just the Saturday demonstration during the day. I found on Sunday night that there was a massive demonstration over in Tower Hamlets, which is obviously, you know, a very Muslim area. It's got a Muslim MP. There's Palestinian flags flying there. But all the roads were basically at a standstill because there was some kind of impromptu demonstration going on, which the police apparently didn't know anything about. But nobody could get anywhere.
Well, look, let's be clear about this. You know, what I would like to know is, where were all of these crowds, actually, when we had the Syrian regime waging war on Syrian people? Where were these crowds when we had Iran brutally crushing Iranian protesters? Where were they when Saudi Arabia was bombing people in Yemen and killing children, and the UN accused them of human rights abuses?
Yes.
You know, you have there are 2 million... One of the things that I always want to know is, Palestine is a tiny sliver of land with only 2 million people, right?
Yeah.
Why does everyone get exercised about that when you have 12 million Muslim Uyghurs in China that no one ever protests about? The Rohingya Muslims in Bangladesh, in Myanmar and Burma, are called the world's most persecuted minority. Yeah. There's complete silence when anyone attacks Muslims, except for when Israel does it, when the Jews. There's a deeply anti-Semitic core to all of this, and no one can deny that.
And let's call it racist, because that's what it is. You know, anti-Semitic is somehow put in a different box from racism, but it shouldn't be. It's the same thing. Meanwhile, there was another protest, I think, outside Scotland Yard, accusing the police of not actually clamping down on anti-Semitism, because we've seen, haven't we, all over social media over the past few days, groups of young people in particular, which is particularly disturbing, groups of young people walking up to where these posters have been put up of the missing and the dead and hostages who have been taken to Gaza, some of them children, babies, and these people tearing these pictures off.
Tearing them down and also actually drawing Hitler moustaches on the faces of young children hostages.
It's a very odd phenomenon, isn't it?
I was recording a show yesterday with the New Culture Forum, and one of our panellists, a young English Christian girl, said she was stopped last weekend on the street by 2 people who said, in a very threatening manner, "Are you a Jew?" She refused to answer, and they screamed "Free Palestine" at her. I mean, the thing is, I've got a lot of time for Mark Rowley, the police commissioner, normally. I think he's doing a great deal better than Cressida Dick. But this was a complete failure. You know, it's made Jews feel that they can't trust the police. It's eroded all of our trust. It's emboldened the radicals on all of this. And it's made people believe that there's 2-tier policing.
Yes.
Because just contrast that policing compared to the Sarah Everard vigil in Clapham Common, for example.
And
or the lockdown protests, for example.
Also, when you see the sort of the Metropolitan Police falling over themselves backwards to try and justify why they haven't arrested somebody who has, to all intents and purposes, been flying an ISIS flag. Now, to those who may be slightly uninitiated, it looks like an ISIS flag. The guy waving it is shouting ISIS slogans. It looks like an ISIS scenario. Metropolitan Police say, oh, no, that's the flag of Islamic faith. And then when they shout for jihad, even though outside of a mosque they're doing it at the behest of a prescribed terrorist group, which is a prescribed terrorist group in almost all Muslim countries in the world, not, unfortunately, in this one, they say, oh, no, they didn't mean holy war. They just meant, you know, make yourself a better person.
And they're saying that behind us, in front of the sign that says calls for Muslim armies.
Right.
I mean, the police,
rise up.
The police absolutely treated protesters with kid gloves over all of this. And, you know, there's no other way that you can interpret jihad in this context than the fact that it means for armed struggle, and they're calling for war against the Israelis. And it's a complete outrage. And if you think about it, what we've seen really is an attempt to get people waving the English flag in London, the capital of England. They were walked up to and said, if you put one word out of place, you'll be arrested.
You're going to get arrested.
And yet they allowed all of this to go ahead. There were only 10 arrests made during that protest. There were 275 arrests during the Notting Hill Carnival.
Yeah.
There were 150 arrests at the lockdown protest that we had in 2020. And when EDL had a march with far fewer people, another 150 were arrested. Why were only 10 people arrested? And also, why were there only 1,000 police policing that?
Yeah.
There are 35,000 police officers in the Met. They're so used to doing things like the Notting Hill Carnival and the coronation, and they can ask for help from other police forces too. I think that's an absolute scandal, and I want to see how many police are going to be present this weekend.
Well, I think that's going to be a very good point, because we're going to be leading up to this weekend, obviously, on the show today, but also on tomorrow, because we're also leading up to, you'll see that I'm wearing a poppy. Remembrance Sunday's coming. You know, we've already seen some activity around the cenotaph. We've already seen Palestinian protesters climbing up statues and putting Palestinian flags in the hands of, historic figures. It's going to be a problem if the police don't get it right. And one of the things that I found astonishing was that on, I think, Monday morning, they put out a picture of somebody carrying a banner which actually said, "I fully support Hamas," right? And asked the question, rather ludicrously, were you there? Did you see it? To which I said, well, I thought you guys were there. Why didn't you just lift him?
It's the degree to which they're trying to get us to do the job for them on Twitter. Have you seen this person? Well, if you had more police on the ground, you would see all of this happening. And yes, this weekend has to be the test, a time for people to actually have faith restored in the police. And as you know, the fact is, when you see, veterans being arrested by 3 policemen for retweeting a humorous image of a flag, and yet when someone is actually waving a jihadi flag, not only that, when you have protesters being helped down off of scaffolding by the police and then handed back the Palestinian flag and asked to go on their way, it really erodes all of our trust in the police, and it does suggest that they have one view when it comes to certain political issues and another view when it comes to other issues.
Exactly right. Let's talk about The Guardian. Always good for a laugh on these occasions. They fired their cartoonist, finally, because they thought that he'd gone one anti-Semitic trope too far, even though he wasn't sure why. Apparently, they've been slammed over a piece that they published suggesting that Israel has weaponised the Holocaust.
Yeah, this is remarkable, It's just further evidence of the dark streak of anti-Semitism that runs through The Guardian. You just have to speak to Melanie Phillips. The amount of anti-Semitism she encountered at The Guardian made her go from left to right. But to publish this in the same month that we've had the first pogrom of the 21st century against Jews. Just this week we saw, Jewish students in a university in America sheltering in a library as a gang outside were banging on the door to get in, baying for blood. I think it's absolutely outrageous that this is being done. And the Holocaust is relevant in that context, because people must realise Palestinian hatred towards Jews didn't begin in 1948 with the State of Israel. The Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, the senior Palestinian figure, was in cahoots with Hitler. He went to visit Hitler.
There are pictures of them together, aren't there?
Yeah, he helped to form a Muslim SS brigade to exterminate Jews in the Balkans. The Hamas comes out of the Muslim Brotherhood, which was founded by Nazi sympathizers who actually translated Mein Kampf into My Jihad in Arabic. And when
obviously didn't mean holy war, though, right?
It didn't mean an emotional struggle, didn't it? And if you look at even Yasser Arafat and the PLO have their roots going back to the Muslim Brotherhood, and there were pogroms committed against Jews in Palestine long before the creation of the State of Israel. So people who are going on these marches thinking this is all about 1948, they are useful idiots for the anti-Semitic cause. And it's about time more people actually spoke up about that and exposed this virulent hatred for what it actually is.
Yes, well, thankfully, we've got the October Declaration out there, which we spoke to Laura Dodsworth about the other day, signed by an awful lot of people, including me.
And myself
which
too.
Does, in fact, give the right of people to say openly, I support Israel, not only as a nation, but as an entity. I support Israel for what it is, and I don't support the absolute demonisation of Jewishness and a Jewish state, because it's entirely wrong. But I think the trouble now is that I've seen it certainly in America, not so much here, but it's beginning to come clear that the anti-Semitism is kind of fuelled, if you like, by this social justice movement, where we've seen, I think I think it was a university in Washington overnight, projecting a message in support, basically, of Hamas on the building itself, and universities like Columbia and Harvard and even Yale, places where you would expect there to be enlightenment, have completely closed off intellectual thought. They've got lecturers there basically decrying Israel. You've got Jewish students frightened to go around the campus for fear of being beaten up. It's extraordinary. And this whole kind of Black Lives Matter movement has kind of morphed into this left-wing support for the Palestinian cause.
And, of course, we know why. It's because, of course, the left treat the Jews as being at the pinnacle of the capitalist world.
Right.
All of those terrible tropes and stereotypes people had of anti-Semitism, of there being a Jewish banking conspiracy and the Rothschilds dominating global politics by controlling the purse strings. They equate Israel with the Jews, and they equate that with capitalism. And as we know from the left, the two greatest evils for capitalism are America and Israel, which they regard as being together. And that's why, even though Jews have been a persecuted minority, as far as the left are concerned, they're actually a predatory state.
Yeah, and I mean, where does it end, I suppose, is the question, because we've now got Sir Keir Starmer in a bit of trouble because he's declared that Israel have the right to defend themselves. He's now busy falling over himself trying to say that he didn't mean to say that, or at least he didn't mean to infer that they could then also blockade aid and blockade food and electricity. I don't know how he gets out of this one.
Well, this really gets me because you have all of these Muslim MPs and other far-left MPs on his side who he's done a very good job trying to erase the stains.
But he obviously hasn't quite managed.
But he hasn't quite managed. But you're seeing really that this is such a deeply embedded hatred that they have there. But why aren't these people who are calling for a ceasefire calling for Egypt to open up its borders, you know, or calling for Hamas to actually allow dual nationals to leave Palestine? Well, I think people are aware. There are people with Norwegian passports and other dual nationals who are being prevented from leaving Gaza by Hamas.
Right.
And Egypt, of course, now, you know, Owen Jones and others say, oh, Palestine is a big open-air prison. Well, one of those prison walls is actually with Egypt. But General El-Sisi, the president of Egypt, doesn't want to flood the nation with militant Islamic fundamentalists. And he's also part of this process whereby the Arabic world wants to keep Palestinians in Gaza to keep the independence cause alive.
Right.
And they are actually using Palestinian people as pawns. There are thousands of people who may die because of this agenda to keep Palestinians there. They don't want to depopulate the land and therefore give more power to Israel to say, well, there's nobody in Gaza. But with all of the trillions of pounds that the Arab states have, from Saudi Arabia to UAE, they could easily build wonderful temporary refugee camps in Egypt to house them, and not just in Egypt and elsewhere. They've got the money to do it. They're fine protesting on the streets. Why don't they put their money where their mouths are and actually do something?
Did the same. The King of Jordan came out and said, we will not take any Palestinian refugees, as did Egypt. If we said it, we'd be accused of being the most racist country in the world.
Well, we shouldn't be taking a single Palestinian refugee. No. They should all be housed within the Arab countries that are now protesting so loudly.
Absolutely right. Let's finish up with Rachel Reeves. Just when things couldn't get any worse for the Labour Party, the Shadow Chancellor has been accused of plagiarism. She's got a new book out, which I have to say doesn't exactly fill me with much excitement for my Christmas book list, but it's something to do with the women of the world economic history or something like that. But she's been accused of nicking loads of stuff from The Guardian, from Wikipedia, and even from Hilary Benn without attribution.
Well, I haven't seen that story. I'm not surprised. I mean, that's a book that will put me to sleep.
It will.
At the best of times.
Yeah.
I've also found Rachel Reeves' voice is very good at night time if I'm suffering from insomnia. So the combination of those two.
Yeah, maybe if you get the book, get her reading it, and that would
it could be a bestseller just for that fact alone.
A very good night's sleep. Absolutely right. Rafe, great to see you. Rafe Heydel-Mankoo there. Absolutely brilliant.